Welcome to the most scandalous, cruel, and intriguing investigation of recent years, a story where love, power, and money are intertwined in a deadly dance, and the revelations about the real life of the Duchess of Sussex surpass even the darkest thrillers in intensity. This is not a Cinderella story, but a chronicle of a deal that turned into an apocalypse for one of the world's most famous couples. The world watched with bated breath as a prince who renounced his crown for love, and a Hollywood actress whose ambitions are matched only by her greed challenged traditions, crossed borders, but failed to survive their own illusions. Prince Harry thought he was the grand prize, but for Meghan Markle, he was just a ticket in. Now that the ticket has been used, the Duchess is reportedly on a new mission to trade her broken prince for a billionaire. The hunt has begun, and Harry has become collateral damage. The fairy tale has rotted from the inside out. What was once the romance of the century, a prince who gave up everything for love, has now been revealed as many suspected. A cold, calculated deal. And now, according to reports, the contract has expired. Meghan Markle, the Duchess of Ambition, is locked in her Montecito mansion, a gilded cage she built herself, desperately seeking a way out. She got what she wanted, a title, global fame, a platform to preach her gospel of packaged compassion. But what did Harry get? Nothing. He lost his family, lost his country, lost the respect of the armed forces he once commanded, and, most tragically, lost his purpose. He has become what critics in Los Angeles dismissively call a depressed redhead, a man without friends, without family, and, by the standards of the California elite, without real money. The vision Meghan sold him wasn't this, not selling jam on Instagram and desperately hoping Netflix doesn't cancel the next check. The vision was global domination, eclipsing the Windsors, becoming the new Hollywood royalty. But Prince Harry, stripped of titles, uniforms, and luster, is no longer an asset in her portfolio. He has become a liability, ballast. And in Meghan's ruthless ledger of ambition, liabilities aren't kept. They're liquidated. The question now echoing through exclusive dinners and corridors of power is no longer whether she will leave him. That is a given. The question is when she will do it, and more importantly, who will he be replaced by? Because in this ruthless California Game of Thrones, love was never king. Love was just a pawn, sacrificed in the opening move to seize a much, much bigger prize. The facade has crumbled, and behind it is not a love story, but a cold, hard balance sheet of a failed merger. The countdown to the breakup has begun. Let's be perfectly honest. This was never a marriage in the traditional sense. It was a corporate merger, a strategic alliance designed for mutual benefit. On the bride's side, Meghan Markle, armed with steely Hollywood ambition and a doctorate in manipulating public image. On the groom's side, Prince Harry, bringing an invaluable asset, a 1,000-year-old lineage, a royal title, and the almost mythical status of the world's most eligible bachelor. For a while, the synergy was explosive. Together, they launched the Sussex brand, a global product carefully packaged and sold under the glittering banner of compassion and progressive activism. The world swallowed it. But here's the rub. As Megyn Kelly, a commentator, ruthlessly pointed out, Meghan has already gotten her cut of the deal. The title of Duchess of Sussex is written into history and permanently attached to her name, a mark of prestige that no one can take away from her. The cosmic fame that has made her one of the most recognizable women in the world is a done deal. Harry, however, has become a ghost at her own party. He is a walking reminder of the original deal, a silent partner whose market value has plummeted to zero. The fundamental problem is that Meghan's universe revolves not around the sun of affection, but around the black hole of ascension. Her currency is not love, but power, and Harry can no longer provide that for her. Fairy tale palaces are mortgaged under a suffocating California mortgage. Royal jewels are replaced by unstable streaming contracts that hang by a thread. For a woman who reportedly lives with a calculator in hand, always calculating the next step on the ladder, Harry has gone from a launch rocket to a lead anchor. It's a wild, ruthless assessment, but it resonates with the chilling truth that her critics have pointed out from the very beginning. For Meghan, Harry was never the destination. He was a luxury vehicle to get there. And now that the journey is over and the fuel is gone, she's ready to get out, drop the keys, and look for a newer, faster, and much more powerful model. There was an invisible escape clause in the contract of the heart, and everything indicates that she is about to use it. It's no longer a whisper. It's a battle cry echoing through the exclusive halls and private clubs of Los Angeles. Numerous sources, from alleged former employees to high society observers, confirm Meghan Markle has begun the hunt for a billionaire. Her mission, described as a ruthless strategic campaign, is to find a replacement for her devalued prince. And make no mistake, this has nothing to do with love or companionship. It's an upgrade, a financial and status refresh, as cold and calculated as a takeover bid. Harry's few million, a fortune for ordinary people, is a joke, pocket change in the dizzying world of private jets and tech empires to which she believes she belongs. What Meghan is looking for is wealth that rewrites the rules, a level of financial power that can buy political influence, fund a personal media empire, and forever insulate her from the consequences of her actions. Reports describe a calculating charm offensive. At every gala, at every high-profile event, she is said to play her role to perfection. She strategically positions herself next to Silicon Valley titans, media moguls, any eligible man with a seven-figure fortune. The infamous tennis match, where she was photographed in a very animated and tactile conversation with Serena Williams' married billionaire husband, was, according to critics, not just a friendly chat. It was a casting call, a trailer, a demonstration of her availability on the market in full swing. Every networking dinner, every charity event has become her personal hunting ground, with Harry relegated to the humiliating role of a bystander. While he stays in the shadows, she takes center stage, subtly reminding the world and her husband that she is a woman of choice, a woman who will not settle for less. It's a double-edged tactic, a masterful power play. Even if she doesn't find a billionaire tomorrow, it keeps Harry in a state of constant anxiety and insecurity. A man forced to watch his wife actively seek out his successor. It's the ultimate humiliation, a public declaration that their marriage is not a sacred union, but a short-term lease that is about to expire. When Paul Burrell speaks, the walls of Buckingham Palace tremble. As a man who was Princess Diana's mainstay, her butler and confidant, he knows the secrets, vulnerabilities, and psychology of the royal family like few others, and, most importantly, he knows Harry. His latest revelation is not just tabloid gossip, it's a psychological time bomb threatening to shatter the last shred of trust in the Sussexes. According to Burrell, Meghan's master plan is frighteningly simple and crystal clear. First, divorce Harry, securing custody of the children with royal titles. Second, marry a billionaire who can fund her true goal. And third, launch a political career with an eye on the governorship of California and eventually the White House. This is the endgame that her critics have been predicting for years. Burrell claims with devastating authority that Harry was manipulated from day one. He exposes Harry's deepest wound, the loss of his mother. When Meghan, a mature and experienced woman, whispered in his ear, "You and I could change the world," Harry didn't hear a Hollywood actress. No, he heard Diana's voice. He heard the echo of his mother's humanitarian mission. Desperate to find the unconditional love and mission that he had so tragically lost in the Parisian tunnel, he projected all those hopes and needs onto Meghan. She became the embodiment of his longing, and that made him the perfect target. Meghan, a strategist, sensed this vulnerability and made it her most powerful weapon. She isolated him from his family, from his friends, from everything he knew, creating complete dependence. She got everything she wanted, a title, a fairy tale wedding, a world stage. But here's the twist. The moment she realized that in the strict royal hierarchy, she would always be in the shadow of Kate, the future queen, the plan changed. Britain was too small a stage, the monarchy too restrictive a cage, and Harry tragically already served his purpose. He ceased to be Prince Charming and became a used tool, a relic of a previous strategy. Burrell's prophecy is not a conspiracy theory, it's a forensic character analysis, a psychological diagnosis that paints Harry not as a rebellious husband, but as a tragic victim, and Meghan as a calculating predator who saw his wound and exploited it for her own gain. Let that sink in. The $100 million Netflix deal was touted as checkmate for the Sussexes, irrefutable proof that they had won the war against the firm and would now build their own media empire from their Montecito throne. It seemed like a blank check, a golden parachute into the financial stratosphere. But here's the cruel truth. It was all a mirage, $100 million of smoke. Insiders and media analysts have debunked this farce. It wasn't a one-time payment, but but a production agreement, a golden carrot dangling on a stick, entirely dependent on whether they produced successful and profitable content. And they delivered a sensational series that was a one-off hit, fueled by the same morbid curiosity that makes you stop and stare at a car crash. People tuned in to see the blood, to witness the final act of family betrayal, but after that, deafening silence. What else can they offer besides their recycled grievances? Nothing. Their project ideas were reportedly rejected one after another. The initial enthusiasm of Netflix executives evaporated, replaced by cold, hard commercial reality. According to reports from Netflix corridors, the couple is now considered toxic. Every public appearance they make triggers an inevitable storm of controversy, a tsunami of negative reaction that no global corporation wants to associate with its brand. Netflix is not in the business of funding a disgruntled duchess's personal war against the British monarchy. They are in the business of making money. They want global hits, not PR headaches, and the Sussex brand has become synonymous with negativity. Meghan's supposed second season of her show, her pathetic attempts to sell jam and dog biscuits, these are distractions. PR maneuvers designed to create the illusion of activity, to keep their names in the headlines. It's not the foundation of an empire, it's the wreckage of a broken dream. Their content kingdom is built not on the solid rock of creative success, but on the quicksand of borrowed fame and resentment. And Netflix, the supposed cornerstone of their glorious financial independence, is proving to be what it really is, a mirage in their financial desert, an illusion that painfully dissipates as they approach, leaving them trapped and more desperate than ever. In Hollywood, there's an unwritten law. Reputation is everything, its currency, the most valuable asset. And according to all industry insiders, Meghan Markle's reputation has become radioactive. The woman who came to California hoping to be crowned as the new queen of Hollywood is now in self-imposed exile, increasingly isolated within her own industry. Where are the A-list stars who once surrounded her? Where are the Obamas? Where is Oprah? They have vanished, keeping a prudent distance, creating a deafening void around her. Invitations to the most exclusive parties in the circles are no longer forthcoming. No more offers of high-profile collaborations. The phone, they say, has stopped ringing. And why such a sudden freeze? The answer is simple and brutal. Meghan Markle carries baggage that no brand, studio, or celebrity in their right mind would want to carry. And that baggage has a name: drama. Every project she touches, every cause she supports, every public appearance she makes inevitably becomes a lightning rod for criticism and controversy. From persistent accusations of bullying palace staff in London, a scandal that refuses to die and haunts her like a shadow, to constant public disputes, lawsuits, and the endless saga of victimhood, she attracts attention for all the wrong reasons. And in the corporate world of Hollywood, where decisions are made on calculators and spreadsheets, that's poison. Film studios and streaming platforms are guided not by narratives of compassion, but by results, return on investment. And the Meghan brand has become synonymous with polarization, negativity, and DEFCON 1 level PR risk. But here's the cruelest irony. Meghan seems to be the only one who doesn't realize it. She continues to present every minor failed project, every appearance on an increasingly less prestigious red carpet, as irrefutable proof of her enduring success and relevance. She lives in a bubble of self-deception, but the rest of the world, and especially Hollywood, sees the truth. A duchess desperately clinging to fame, using second-rate influencer tactics to mimic the power and influence she clearly no longer possesses. The gap between the grandiose image she projects and the cold, lonely reality of her isolation widens with each passing day, leaving her as a queen sitting on an empty throne in a one-person kingdom. And then came the final split. The most convincing signal that Meghan Markle's House of Cards is collapsing comes not from critics, not from tabloids, and not even from the royal family. It comes from her own inner circle. The inner circle rebellion has begun. The end. Those close to the Duchess, people who know her personally, who have been in her home and shared her secrets, have begun to leak their frustration to the press. And a quote published in the Daily Mail and attributed to an alleged ally is a dagger to the heart of her carefully crafted image. She just doesn't get it. Let her sink. This isn't an external attack from an enemy, it's an admission of defeat. It's the sound of her own supporters giving up. They confirm in anonymous whispers what her detractors have been shouting for years. Meghan hasn't evolved, hasn't learned. She's stuck in the same cycle, desperately pursuing the superficial fame of an influencer, obsessed with TV deals that never materialize, and laser-focused exclusively on herself. The mask of the global humanitarian, the brilliant strategist, the champion of change is cracking, and behind it remains the image of that very Hollywood actress who, legend has it, had a picture of Prince Harry on her vision board as a teenager, not as a romantic interest, but as a strategic goal. For Prince Harry, this internal betrayal must be the deepest cut. It's one thing to be attacked by the press, another to be betrayed by your own team. His wife is not only losing the battle for public favor, she's losing control of her own narrative, of her own people. And here's the golden rule of a PR crisis. When your allies start talking to the press, the game is over. At that point, the world stops seeing you as a misunderstood victim and starts seeing you exactly as your critics have always suspected. The problem, the confirmation for the doubters, has finally arrived, and it's come not in a sensational headline, but in a frustrated, weary phrase from someone who once believed in her. The script has irrevocably changed, and now the supporting characters, those who know the truth, are revealing the true, self-serving nature of the protagonist. In her desperate pursuit of icon status, Meghan Markle reportedly has a role model in mind, Jackie Kennedy Onassis. The idea is to become the Jackie of the 21st century, a figure of style, grace, and silent power. But this comparison is not only absurd, it's deeply offensive to the legacy of the real Jackie and reveals a fundamental, delusional misunderstanding on Meghan's part. Let's break it down. What made Jackie Kennedy an enduring icon? Not just the designer dresses or the oversized sunglasses. Jackie had innate class, an aura of mystery, and above all a tragedy of Greek proportions that forged an indelible bond with the public. She bore the loss of a president of the nation, of her own innocence, with a stoic dignity that elevated her above mere celebrity. She became a universal symbol of grace under unimaginable pressure. Now, compare that to Meghan. She too has desperately tried to construct her own narrative of suffering, of sacrifice, but the public, rightly, isn't buying it. What are her tragedies? Spats with her father, criticism in British newspapers, cancelled Spotify contracts. Is that the same as watching your husband murdered beside you? While Jackie projected a silent strength and unwavering dignity, Meghan projects constant grievances, perpetual outrage. And here's the calculated mistake, the fatal flaw in her strategy. The billionaires she's allegedly courting aren't looking for a second wife who comes with a circus of controversy and victimhood. They don't need a partner who polarizes public opinion and requires a 24/7 crisis management team. They need glamour without baggage. Meghan doesn't carry baggage. She carries a freight train of baggage, full of family dramas, lawsuits, and a trail of fractured relationships. She may dream of becoming the next Jackie, lazily sailing the Mediterranean on a Greek shipping magnate's yacht. But she lacks the most essential ingredient, one that can't be bought or faked: empathy. Jackie won the hearts of the world through genuine hardship and heartfelt grace. Meghan, with her pineapple-themed cooking classes and endless PR nightmares, seems to only earn ever more negative headlines. The Jackie Kennedy mold isn't just broken, it's in a museum. And Meghan, no matter how hard she tries, simply doesn't fit. It's a classic case of ambition without self-awareness. Never underestimate the scope of Meghan Markle's ambition. Now that the luster of royalty has faded and the doors of Hollywood are closing, all signs point to her next, most audacious move, conquering the political arena. Forget the failed podcasts and children's books. Those will be mere appetizers. The main course was always power. The idea of Meghan running for public office, first for governor of California and then for president of the United States, may sound like the plot of a B-movie, but it fits with chilling logic into her pattern of narcissistic behavior. Politics is the ultimate stage, the apotheosis of fame, the one place where name recognition can translate into real, tangible power. And Meghan, as countless sources have indicated, craves power more than the air she breathes. In a perverse twist, she possesses many of the superficial qualities needed for a modern politician. She's telegenic, can read from a teleprompter with conviction bordering on sociopathy, and, most importantly, she's demonstrated time and time again that she doesn't hesitate to be absolutely ruthless to get what she wants. In fact, her seeming insincerity, her ability to adopt whatever position is advantageous to her at any given moment, might be an asset in the cynical and corrupt world of modern politics. But again, her Achilles heel, her anchor, is her baggage. Her approval ratings have plummeted to toxic levels. Her reputation for being calculating, transactional, and fundamentally inauthentic precedes her wherever she goes. Yet, in her hubris, she believes she can overcome it. She's seen other public figures with tainted reputations pull off a comeback, and she knows the first rule of American politics. All you need is name recognition and money. She has the former in abundance, and if her pursuit of a billionaire proves successful, she'll have the latter in unlimited quantities. In this new, ambitious script, where does Prince Harry fit in? Nowhere. He's becoming an inconvenient accessory, a liability, a walking reminder of the chaos and controversy that defines her. He doesn't fit the neat and predictable image of a first gentleman. His mere presence at a political rally will remind voters of his own family's bitter betrayal. Therefore, the path to political power, the path to the Oval Office, may require one last brutal sacrifice, severing the last connection to the man and the past that made her famous in the first place. It will be her final act of reinvention, from duchess to governor, from traitor to leader of the free world. It's a terrifying thought. Pause for a moment and remember who Prince Harry was. Erase the current image from your mind. Remember Harry before, the soldier, the captain, the Apache pilot, twice serving in Afghanistan, the most charismatic and genuinely beloved bachelor in the royal family, the people's prince, a title inherited from his mother. He had that mischievous smile, that easy connection with ordinary people, that spark of rebellion that made him human. He had a future, a brilliant future in the monarchy, a unique role that allowed him to serve his country, his veterans, and maintain his status and the respect of the world. Now, open your eyes and look at what he's become. A haggard, isolated man, trapped in his own Californian estate, fighting petty, endless legal battles with newspapers. A man forced to watch helplessly as his wife openly flirts with other men and plans a future that increasingly seems not to include him. His fall from grace hasn't been gradual, it's been a free fall, a spectacular and deeply tragic descent. He traded a life of duty, honor, and purpose for what he blindly believed was love, only to find himself amid the wreckage, realizing that it might have simply been a stepping stone. In his public appearances, he looks perpetually bewildered, anxious, defensive. It's the look of a man who can't understand how or why his life has gone off the rails so catastrophically. The very vulnerability that made him so beloved by the public, his open heart and yearning for normalcy, is the very quality that critics claim made him such easy prey. The Harry we see now isn't the rebel prince courageously forging his own path. He's a man who appears to have undergone a complete annihilation of his identity. He's drifting, lost in an existential no-man's land. Too famous and damaged to be normal, yet too toxic and untrustworthy to be a genuine Hollywood celebrity. Too real for Hollywood, too Hollywood for the royals. He's become the prince in the shadows, a supporting character in his own wife's melodrama. A living, blinking reminder that in Meghan Markle's ruthless pursuit of power and status, he wasn't her partner. He was her first and greatest casualty. The great Sussex story was sold to the world as a bold declaration of independence, a heroic break from an archaic institution. But the stark reality is that it's become a prison of limited opportunities, unfulfilled expectations, and growing desperation. With the Sussex brand in freefall and the revenue streams evaporating like a puddle in the California desert, Meghan Markle finds herself at an existential crossroads. The chessboard has shifted, and she must calculate her next strategic move before checkmate arrives. Let's analyze the options. Option A, the most talked about, and for her the most desirable, is upgrading to a billionaire. It's the cleanest exit, the quickest solution to her financial woes, and the one that most closely aligns with her aspirations for boundless luxury and power. But, as we've seen, there's a problem. Billionaires aren't lining up to buy such a toxic asset. They're predators, not saviors, and they can smell desperation and the risk of a PR disaster from miles away. Option B is politics, the long-term gamble. This option requires a complete reset, a public metamorphosis that will transform the perpetually complaining Duchess into a serious, dedicated public servant. It's such a radical rebranding that most of the public will find it not just implausible, but in poor taste. It requires a patience she lacks and an authenticity that critics claim she never possessed. Then there's option C, the option of stagnation, the most depressing and humiliating for a woman of her ambition. Holding on to Harry, squeezing the last drop out of his fading princely status, launching more mediocre, soulless projects, continuing the war of attrition against the royal family just to stay in the headlines and stave off oblivion. It's a scorched earth strategy that guarantees a slow slide into irrelevance, but might keep the lights on in the Montecito mansion a little longer. Each path is fraught with danger. Each door leads into a new labyrinth. But one thing is absolutely certain. Meghan Markle won't stand still. She's genetically programmed for ambition, for upward mobility. For her, stagnation is death. And while she, the master strategist, coldly calculates her next move, Prince Harry, the pawn in her game, can only wait and wonder if he'll be a companion in the next chapter of her life, or simply a forgotten epilogue of the previous one. It's a question that haunts this entire saga, a question that millions around the world are asking as they watch this slow, agonizing derailment. Why does Harry allow this? Why does a man who was once a captain in the British Army, a prince of one of the most powerful nations in the world, seem so docile, so passive, as his life, his legacy, and his reputation are systematically dismantled before his very eyes? The answer, according to the most insightful royal analysts, is not simple. It's a toxic, complex mix of misguided love, deep psychological trauma, and textbook manipulation. To understand Harry's silence, you must first understand the scorched earth he left behind. In his haste to escape, he burned all the bridges. He alienated his father, the king. He alienated his brother, the future king. He alienated his childhood friends, his comrades in arms, and the very nation that once adored him. Meghan and their children aren't just his family, they are, in essence, all he has left in the world. To abandon her now, to admit that it was all a mistake, would be to confront an unbearable truth, that the colossal sacrifice he made, the sacrifice of his entire previous life, was for nothing. It would be a public humiliation on a scale that no human being, not even a prince, could recover from. And then, of course, there's the Diana factor. The ghost of his mother haunts his every move. His almost paranoid fear of repeating history, the fear that Meghan will suffer the same tragic fate at the hands of the press, is the driving force behind all his actions. He's become her knight in shining armor, her tireless protector. But in his blind zeal to shield her from external enemies, he seems unable to see that the greatest threat to his well-being comes not from the tabloids, but from the woman sleeping next to him. He's trapped in the us against the world narrative he himself helped construct. He's convinced himself that any criticism is an attack, any inconvenient truth is a lie. To break free of this mental fortress now would be to admit defeat, to acknowledge that the world was right all along. So he stays silent, endures the humiliation, watches as his wife searches for a replacement, because the alternative, the only other option, is to confront the devastating and lonely truth, that he traded a kingdom, a legacy, and a life of service for a house of cards that's collapsing around him. He's paralyzed not by weakness. It's a paralysis born of tragically misplaced loyalty and a primal, terrifying fear of being finally, utterly, and completely alone. And so we arrive at the precipice. The curtain is about to fall on this bleak act of the Sussex drama, but make no mistake, the play is far from over. What we have before us is a fundamentally unstable situation, a powder keg of unfulfilled ambition and silent despair, waiting for the spark that will ignite everything. On one side you have Meghan, restless, relentless, locked in a life of suburban luxury that no longer satisfies her insatiable hunger for status and power. On the other, you have Harry, isolated, bewildered, and visibly broken, clinging to a marriage that may be his last and only tether to stability in a world he himself has set ablaze. Millions from Netflix will not suffice. Jam and biscuits will not be enough. Empty fame alone certainly won't cut it. Critics and pundits are convinced. Meghan's next move will be a bold, seismic shift, either into the arms of a billionaire, the cutthroat world of politics, or a strategic combination of both. The question hanging in the air is no longer if it will happen, but how the inevitable, spectacular explosion will unfold. Will it be a quiet, surgically calculated divorce, negotiated through high-powered lawyers in anonymous boardrooms? Or will we witness a thermonuclear media war, a PR battle so fierce that the Oprah interview will seem like a polite tea party? One thing is certain. This saga is hurtling towards its climax. The reckoning is inevitable, and whether Meghan succeeds in her quest for more, or crashes and burns as spectacularly as she rose, the end result for Prince Harry seems bleak and predictable. The man who gave up everything, family, country, honor, for what he believed was love, now faces the horrifying possibility of being left with nothing. The countdown has begun. The ticking clock grows louder, and the world watches with bated breath. Not to see if this twisted fairy tale will have a happy ending, but to witness with morbid curiosity just how brutal the inevitable carnage will be.